Hi, everyone, and welcome to the special simulcast of the Neil Haley Show and the Reset Medical and Wellness Podcast. I am the presenter, Neil Haley, who hosts this podcast and also the Neil Haley Show. And my guest today is an amazing person, Jeff Dardia. He is from Task Force Dagger Special Operations Foundation. How are you, Jeff?
Good. How you doing?
Let's talk about how this all happened. Tell us a little bit about your background first, and how
Sure.
did you get this organization started?
Yeah. Never thought in a million years I'd be getting the health and wellness guy. I originally joined the military to be a commando, and then I had some health stuff happen to me at a very young age that forced me to learn about health and wellness. And then came back in the military, was having a good run. I spent over 20 years as a Green Beret, and then about halfway through my career as a Green Beret, I hit a wall and had to figure it out. And at that time of need, Task Force Dagger Special Operations Foundation was just standing up. Used to be Task Force Dagger back then, and they only had one program, and they were able to help me go outside the military and figure some stuff out. And then when I figured that stuff out, all the suicide, cancer stuff, operator syndrome type stuff, I started the program, the Health Initiatives program for the foundation in 2012, and ran it as a volunteer while on active duty until this past year when I retired and came on full time. But yeah, it was not all the good things that led me to this path. It was all the bad things in my life that led me to this path, which I'm grateful for. And that's one of the biggest things I like to teach people is that, hey, it might seem bad at the time, but it's pushing you in the direction you need to go to learn some things.
Absolutely. So you heard about the organization. Once you finally retired, then you said, I'm going to go this full time. How did you benefit from this organization? Like, tell us in the bad situation that you were
Yeah.
going through still in the military. So a lot of times people talk about veterans and they forget about active duty service members that,
Yeah.
yeah, they're still serving our country. And thank you again for your service. But we are always talking about veterans in this country and not the active duties that are on the ground, boots on the ground right now.
Yeah, it's always we're a reactionary society, and it goes back to, my goal with this program was to help you before the catastrophe, not after. And active duty is where we can interdict and intervene with people before they get out and become the veteran. That's where we see the most suicides is within a year of separation out of the military, loss of mission, purpose, focus, and identity. But yeah, the foundation, I got involved with the foundation as a volunteer to help a couple of my bros in the teams that got severely wounded. There were Task Force divers going to take them on a scuba diving trip in Key West. And so myself and my warrant officer, Scott Gronowski, who's now chief of operations for the foundation, we were dive supervisors in special forces. And we were like, hey, we want to put our guys in the water, make sure we're the ones that go there and make sure everything's okay with them. And the foundation said, hey, come on down. And we started as volunteers and ended up as staff. And so fast forward, that was in 2011. 2012, my health was tanking pretty significantly. And when I asked to go do some programs outside the military to get some advanced diagnostic testing done, it was no questions asked. It was, hey, we got your back. Take care of whatever you need to do. We'll be there for you. And that's like what we go by now is we got your back. And so I was able to look at the health conditions that I was dealing with right off the bat. It was environmental, right? So traumatic brain injury, blast overpressure, impact concussions, toxic
Oh,
exposures, which is non-traumatic brain injury, which nobody talks about, chronic stress, traumatic stress, childhood trauma, adverse childhood experiences that I had no idea had an impact on me. And then looking at all the insomnia, sleep deprivation, and infectious diseases, things that were in our environment overseas and here that we were being exposed to and had no idea how it impacted, guess what, the nervous system and the immune system. And when I was able to go out and utilize functional medicine and get all those things looked at, guess what they found? Yeah, I was catabolic. I was stuck in a hyper aroused, hyper vigilant state. I was packed full of heavy metals, toxins, and pathogens, bacteria, fungus, and parasites. And my head was being blown in from thousands of explosives and millions of rounds of munitions, and I was huffing in toxic gases the whole time. So, traumatic brain injury, trauma, toxic exposures, and pathogens, infectious diseases, right? and then add the insomnia on top of that, there's no shock why cancer and suicide are two leading causes of death in our career field. So was able to figure that all out. I understood that, hey, if this is in my environment, it's impacting me. These are knowns, right? I don't have to do studies to tell you that getting blown up by an ID causes brain damage, or that toxic exposures cause
Yeah.
toxicity, or traumatic stress and chronic stress drive illness, right?
Hmm.
And I was like, I've got all these things. I've checked all the boxes, right? High allostatic load, the whole operator syndrome thing. And then I
Wow.
said, okay, I need to come up with a system of checks that look at this, right? Think of your car with an onboard diagnostic system and check engine lights. If I know I'm exposed to all these things, why aren't we looking at these things?
Right.
And that was baffling to me because it was like, why are people killing themselves? We can't figure it out. Is it alcohol, firearms, relationships, and all these things? So it's like, oh no, like brain injury is like the number one medical condition associated with suicide. Adverse childhood experiences. If as an adult, if you have four, or I mean six or more as an adult, you're 25 times more likely to take your own life. If you're a child and have four or more, you're 26 times more likely to take your own life. Find people in our organization that don't have a lot of those boxes checked, right? And then add brain injury on top of
Right.
it, add insomnia, and then substance abuse or use. And these things are multiplicative, and they're not linear and they're dose dependent. So if you take someone at an earlier age and you keep re-exposing them over and over and over again, guess what the expected outcome is? And it's not a shocker, right? This is not like, wow, where did this come from? It's like, hey, how do we miss it? And so
Right.
that was how I made my mark, is educating people about these things. And in simplistic forms, it comes down to risk management. It comes down to, decision making and understanding the operational environment, which is the first soft imperative. So that's it. I mean,
But you didn't have these discoveries till Task Force Dagger, or you were prepared?
no, I had them. I started in 2009 down this road, and it was Task Force Daggers, the one that helped me take awareness into action, right? Like
Oh, but you weren't
I
taking action before that.
I went through NICO, the TBI Center, and I was linked up with a functional medicine provider prior to that. And it wasn't until like Task Force Dagger sent me to do KXRF bone lead testing and some other advanced diagnostic testing at the Cleveland Clinic that we were able to nail this down. We had the Department of Defense, we had the VA and civilian medical providers all seeing the same thing. So it was, oh, this isn't a fluke. They used to say you're the canary in the coal mine, patient zero, you're an oddity. Not everybody's got this. So I went and did all the testing, found it, and then started sending other people through Task Force
Oh,
Dagger to get all these tests done in 2012. And that's where we really got our first population of operator syndrome patients tested for bone lead levels, hormones, toxic exposures, pathogens, in all those things. And then when we have found the same thing in almost everybody we were looking at, we're like, this is not random. This is not just you're the canary in the coal mine.
right.
It's, hey, you're a product of your environment. If we throw you in fire, you're going to get burned, right? And that's an expected appropriate outcome. And when you throw someone into chronic and traumatic stress for over 20 years, you put them in air pollution and toxic exposures, and they have thousands of blast exposures, and they have no sleep. Yeah, they're going to have all the same things. So
Right.
operator syndrome was born. We didn't call it that at the time. Chris Free coined that phrase, but we called it high allostatic load, or overexposure to the soft operational environment. So
You know what's surprising is once we know about these things, we don't talk about before you get into these really very challenging positions. For being in the military, look at first responders, EMS, police. We don't look at their backgrounds before psychologically and test them to understand, have they gone through childhood trauma? Have they had some sort of maybe PTSD in childhood or even in adulthood before they even trained into this, had a serious traumatic industry, so that we have the right resources available right when it happens to them.
yeah.
Okay, you just got in this horrible situation, one of your members got killed or you shot somebody, and we're going to now work on this. Can they start to look at these things more for first responders and military? I think they should.
It's not even they can. Of course they can do it. It's, do they want to do it? I quote, we don't want to open Pandora's box, right? There's certain attributes and characteristics you get from children with adverse childhoods that make you want to run into danger, to go in and put yourself in situations to fix people, to save people, you know, and they're afraid if we talk about this or we do something, they're going to lose the desire to want to put themselves in harm way, right?
Oh
This
my.
information is known. It's not like this is a secret. The military spent a lot of money and a lot of time um, looking at childhood trauma and how it affects people. They know this data. You can go out there and pull it up. It's open source. The thing is, the way I look at it is when you get someone on the other side of trauma with post-traumatic growth, you can't mess with them. Like they've been through everything and they know they can overcome these things. That's where we want to get people. But if we ignore this and say, oh, we'll deal with this on the back end, you're going to
Right.
get a person who does really good for about halfway through their career, and then they're going to start circling the drain. Whereas the person who identifies with what they went through, overcomes it, and is educated about it, they can last a lot longer. They know how to put the tools and implementations in place to identify, hey, I need a break or I need to go, do some work for a little bit and then I can come back out and finish this. Whereas the person that's like, I'm never telling anybody about this, I'm going to keep my mouth shut, I'm just going to use alcohol and drugs and sex as my coping mechanisms, and I'm going to run it till the wheels fall off and we'll see how far I get. We don't do that with our weapon systems, our radios, none of that, right? Like we have a set time when we do maintenance on things. Humans are more important than hardware. And then after a certain amount of hours or flight time, this thing has to come off, get a full function check, disassembled, reassembled, and then put back out in the line to check again and then put out in service again. Do they do that for us? Hell
No.
no, right? So humans are more important than
No.
hardware. We say it all the time. So the big thing is that if you understand what this is and you overcome it, you can be way more resilient than the average bear. And
Okay.
that's post-traumatic growth. That's the thing we don't talk about. So I'm a big fan of we acknowledge that the people we get in this community are coming from this type of environment. Okay, let's give them a little bit of education up front and then connect them to resources so when the time or the need arises that they know exactly where to go to get it. Not after the DUI, not after their domestic violence or after the suicide attempt. They know before that, hey, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do and I'm not responding the way I should be. I need to let somebody know. And
All right.
it's just
Yeah.
like your car, right? Check engine light goes off. Hey, do I have to do it right this second? No, but I know it has to be done. And that's the same thing when it comes to mental fitness or mental health is understanding the same concept.
All right. So let's talk about how you met Reset Medical. How did that happen?
So originally started through a documentary. Reset wasn't even a thing at the time. I was actually working with Dr. Lipoff and working with Lucas and Scott Hayes, and we were filming a documentary about basically all the things in special operations that caused people to want to kill themselves, right? Mental resiliency. And it formed out of that of Kelly obviously getting her son through this program, then her doing this and being like, oh my God, it morphed into this other thing and then became, hey, we're not just making a film, we're going to start a clinic. There's a high demand signal for this. And when the film was being made, I was on my way out the door with retirement, and it was like, okay, I've had the procedure before, but this was one of the most high stress, critical moments of my career where I was walking away after almost 24 years of service. And, it was like, hey, man, you've done all the work. Why don't you come out here to the clinic and get this done on your way out the door? And hey, we'll finish filming this documentary. So it was like the universe fully came full circle. And it was like, hey, you've been sending all these people to do this procedure for years. Let's get you, a little tune up as you're coming out of the military, a decompression stop, and then help you get reset literally before you start working full time for the foundation. And mind you, I had been working pretty much full time for the foundation for over 12 years leading up to that,
Yeah.
just as a volunteer. But
I see the passion you have.
yeah,
So you learned about this when it not called the NSR treatment, like Dr. Lowers coins this phrase. You
yeah,
know it from back when it's talking about stellate ganglion reset.
yeah,
So
full
what?
sympathetic reset. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
well,
DSR.
whatever. I'm trying to learn this. All right. So that's if I'm right, stellate ganglion reset. is a little different than how the Reset Medical and Wellness Center coins it.
Yeah.
Now, you had people go do this treatment before that. What do you think's different about the ones you sent then to now what Reset does differently in how the success rate they have with their patients?
So right off the bat, everything goes into setting and safety. Like the whole experience of going to reset, that's what everybody, tells me their feedback, including myself when I went. It wasn't, you never felt rushed. You felt safe when you got there and it was like, hey, we got your back. Everything's going to be okay. Let us know if you feel anything. You always felt comfortable, you always felt safe, and you never felt like an outsider. So when it comes to doing trauma work, safety and setting is everything,
Yeah.
and they nailed that one right off the bat. And then it was the follow through after the procedure, right? It wasn't just, hey, thanks, here's your shot, you paid us, see you later. There was an entire like process, right? It was almost like ceremonial. When you got there, after you get done, you get the star on the wall.
Right.
And then the follow through comes, you go sit in your chair and then you interact with other people who've had the procedure. Doc Lowers does the interview with you prior to going in there, talking about everything we just talked about now, like how did I get here? And it's just a phenomenal experience all around. Not any point in time do you feel like you're flapping? Do you feel like you're rushed? Do you feel like you're an inconvenience to anybody? It's just the whole full package, the full experience there. And the staff, everybody gets it. They understand who's coming there, and they know our community, they know our culture, and they know our language. So.
What I see, especially experiencing going there, I didn't do it. My fiance did, and it was unbelievable what happened, the change in her. That's a story for another time. But ultimately, you're right. What they do so well is make it the best setting possible.
Mhm.
A lot of us don't even like going into hospitals, right? Or going to doctor's offices. It's a totally different environment.
Yeah.
So very helpful. Everyone is so nice there, and the experience from beginning to end for the 2 days is unreal,
Yeah.
unreal, and how well and how much. And then you talk about the fruit and the follow up. So I think
So,
that's where you were like blown away because you said sent people to other places
yeah.
before this center started, right?
Yeah. A lot. Yeah.
And you think the follow up's so key to keep the reset working.
I mean, that's it, right? That the reset is step number one. The hard work comes after that, right? The reset will provide you the time and the space, and it's like a relief valve. And it gives you a reference point of, oh my God, how was I living this way for so long and now I feel that, it gives you a set point of this is what I need to work towards every day. So the back end of that is the integration and the changing the behavior and modifying your environment to not make you the same way you were before you got there, right? If I took you and just sent you to do a reset and you lived in chaos, a toxic relationship, a toxic career, or whatever it was, you're going to revert right back to where you were before because the nervous system always goes back to the familiar hell, the chaos. And if you don't change anything after you get that procedure, guess what's going to happen? Over time, your nervous system's slowly going to go back to where you were before. So it's not a one and done thing. And the clinic knows that. And our goal is not to just keep you sending you back to do stellate ganglion blocks. But what the goal is to do is to buy you the space to do the hard, difficult work, which is reprocessing, repackaging, relabeling, and telling your narrative in a different framework where, hey, yes, it was traumatic. That's not who I am, and how I respond to this is who I am. And it's my responsibility to heal, not anybody else's, and it's not anybody else's fault what happened to me, right? Like taking ownership of what you've been through. And once we can start to do that and rewire the nervous system to feel safe, to feel adequate, like never having to prove yourself every day and convince people to like you or love you, like that's nervous system hardwiring that you have to undo. And that takes time. But again, it goes back to safety, having the time and space to do it, and then the setting and the environment which you go back to. So that's one of the biggest things where you're educated with reset is expectation management of, hey, when you get out of this procedure, this is the time to do your work. And that's, when I do one-on-one consults with people before we send them, we make sure we brief that right up front that, hey, this isn't a silver bullet. It's going to give you some damn relief and you're going to notice some things and wonder how you lived the way you did for so long. So,
Now let's talk about your unbelievable. You've done it multiple times, I guess you
yeah.
said, but full disclosure. Now with this one, what changes did you see immediately from yourself after
So
having?
it comes back down to like the self-awareness piece, but the mental clarity of when you turn the volume knob down, coming out of survival mode, your aperture opens up. So you're able to notice more things you never noticed before, whether it's people's emotions, facial expressions, colors, sound. As the nervous system calms down and that, volume knob comes down, you can start to see things for what they are. You get more clarity, easier to make decisions. And it's I always say it's like the 3.8-second delay fuse we use in interior breaching. And it's like you don't have to overreact to everything in your environment. You can acknowledge it, size it up. Hey, is this really as important as I think it is? Do I need to respond that way? No. Okay, it's like someone cutting you off in traffic. For people in our population group, when those that criteria is met while you're in the environment, for us, we go through the 5 paragraph op order of react to contact, right? Like I'm going to pit this guy, rip him out, choke him out in front of his family, and then I'm going to move on with my day. Like those scenarios go through our dudes' heads. And it's like when it happens now, it's like, oh, maybe he had to go to the bathroom. His day is worse than mine. Go ahead, bud. You don't have to jump to
Right.
the whole, what we do for a living, what's hardwired in our nervous system to respond like. We know that, hey, man, we don't have to do that all the time. It's still there if we need it, but it doesn't have to be our primary course of action. So,
No, it doesn't. And so that's amazing. So that whole fight or flight thing,
yeah.
which I've experienced at times from professional wrestling and dealing with a few concussions, where
Right.
I had to work on myself, work on my anger issues, work on
Yeah.
that. And first, and going through a traumatic experience, separation, then divorce, I dealt with those types of things. Now, I don't just react. I think about things, but I never went through this. But I ultimately worked on myself, self hypnosis, meditation,
Yeah.
eating healthier, mindset, spirituality. All those things worked. Now, trust me, what I saw with Vanessa, I'd say, I still have those times where I react. There's those times where I am not. I used to, but I learned that processing. I learned that stuff. But ultimately, when you're in a serious situation, all that's going through your head is fight and flight all the time. You're
Mhm.
always on that alert, which is not good for the nervous system. It's not good for the body that you're just ready to react, right? That's
Mhm.
the big thing.
Yeah, reactivity. And you don't want to be in reactivity. You want to be responding. And when you're in the limbic system and the old lizard brain, you're only focused on three things in life. And fighting's the number one thing. And then getting your needs met is number two. And then three is reproducing. So when you're stuck in that, it's like every guy in the military, what their mindset is. When you come out of survival mode, you think more long term. You see big picture and you're not reactive, you're responding. And
Mm,
so think about it in the military. We don't call it respond to contact, we call it react to contact. And we hardwire that reaction into us so we don't die. So
mm,
if it becomes our default operating system for so long, what do you think is going to happen when we're threatened?
right.
We're going to go to the default operating system, which is reactivity, eliminate the threat, look for the next one and do the same thing. And if that happens to be your family and that's not a good thing. And so that's where we need to teach people how to brake throttle modulate and, pump the brakes a little bit, take a deep breath,
Right.
and be like, hey, no, this is not the time and setting. You can
Yeah,
size it
we're
up.
always taught, as athletes or in a real high male sport. First of all, I was a college basketball player, played football 1 year, but I was a professional wrestler. So I was in the where, hey, anger is part of it. I think anger is a good thing. And I
Yeah.
learned that's not a good thing. You don't need to get angry all the time. It especially as a big guy like me, I people fear that and don't want that. We thought fear is a male thing, but it's not really. So that's where you learn those specific things. So what I know you've had a lot of success stories. All we've talked about on this podcast before on the Reset Medical and Wellness podcast is so many people's stories. The people you've sent to Reset, you've had some tremendous stories, haven't you?
Yeah, you could say that.
Like who's the progress? Talk about without sharing people's names, some of the things that you're able to see.
Yeah, we've had people living out of their cars, homeless, ready to kill themselves, highly addicted to everything. And they're just like, hey man, I'm at the end of my rope. I don't know what to do. And we always say the first part of healing is regulating the nervous system, because if you're stuck in survival mode, your body's in a state of catabolism, right? You're anti-anabolic. And until you can feel safe and slow down, you're not going to be thinking big picture, right? So we've had people, that's the first step we do, unless we have to detox them inpatient, is to get them out. We do the advanced stellate ganglion block or the dual sympathetic reset, and then we usually put them in ketamine assisted psychotherapy. So that's the advanced nervous system reset. Just by doing those two things, about 90% of the time, we've taken people that were one day away from suck, start, and a pistol to, okay, I know what I need to do now, and I know what's dragging me down. I know where I need to go. And then we get them in the programs, the TBI programs, and their lives turn around. And they know they have to do the work. They know this isn't just the easy button. And that's where the real progress we see long term is, okay, I know what role I'm playing in this. I know where I need to put my time and energy. I know where I don't need to put my time and energy. And I know what environments are toxic for me. And I know where I'm toxic in other environments, family, home, and what I need to do to fix that and remedy that. And the cool thing about this is we're a family-based organization. We don't just fix the operator. We understand that if we only fix the operator and they caused chaos in their home and we don't address the family back home, then guess what's going to happen? You're going to build resentment and that environment's never going to change. So we help the spouse and the operator and the kids to make sure that the home they go back to is safe, it's stable, and they're not walking on eggshells, and everybody can get the help they need. So,
All right. So that's a tremendous story, from homeless to not wanting to commit suicide with this treatment. Why is this not known everywhere? That's
um,
my question.
because it's not being fed by mainstream media, it's not being fed by the pharmaceutical industry. It's one of those procedures where it's word of mouth that's people are getting to know this, right? Couple books went out about it, but that's not where people are learning about this. They're learning about this. Hey, this helped my friend. I want to go do it.
Yeah,
That's where we're seeing the most referrals come. Other people we've helped with that. When we do start getting the word out there, we're going to have lines out the door for
I
people to
know that
done.
it's going to
Yeah,
happen, and it
yeah,
will
it already
happen
is. Yeah,
because getting it to the right person, one
yeah.
person, will change it all together. You know, I forget, Senator Kennedy was on my show before I knew about this. I would have told him about it, see if he would have known. Definitely, this healthcare needs to cover this. That's for sure. The insurance companies need to start to cover this, but it's worth it. As Dr. Lowers and I spoke that this is just like going and getting other types of treatments. This is worth your investment, for sure. And then there's help like foundations that send people. So, Jeff, where's we can find information on your foundation stuff? Where can we go?
www.taskforcedagger.org. Go to the website, and we have the need help or the info lines on there, but go right to our website. We help all special operations enablers and their family members, and anyone who's assigned or attached to special operations when they're wounded, ill, or injured, we cover them as well. So we got a big charter, but we are like the 911 button when it comes to mental health and stuff like that. And the cool thing about us is we pride ourselves on our partnerships with other orgs within the community. And so, like Operator Relief Fund, Special Forces Foundation, Special Forces Trust, Avalon Action Alliance, All Secure Foundation. We got a whole core of organizations that all chip in and help spread the load among the organizations and the services. So that's one thing we pride ourselves on is our relationships with those other orgs. So, and
All
we're
right.
grateful for it.
And for Reset Medical and Wellness Center, you can go theresetcenter.com. Appreciate it, Jeff. Thanks again. That was the special simulcast, the Neil Haley Show, and the Reset Medical and Wellness Podcast.